What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Thomas and today we're talking about how I color grade my footage in DaVinci Resolve. I've been getting a ton of questions asking how I color my footage and how I get it to look the way that it does. So today we're going to be inside of DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to show you my pretty simple process to coloring all my footage. I figured this type of video would help out, just really explaining my ideas and process and really my style to color grading. And for the last few years, I've been really trying to sharpen my color grading and just really hone in my style. And I feel like I just started to take it more seriously when I switched over to DaVinci Resolve. And I've fully switched over. I'll be making a video on that later. But ever since that switch, I've really taken it seriously. And I feel like my projects have all looked way better than they could have versus when I was editing in Premiere. So my style as a whole is really natural. I don't really do heavy grades or really complicated stuff. I just like having things that look like real life, but just better. And I think you guys may be surprised on how I actually color my stuff. It's a very simple process. It's not complicated unless it has to be. I just like having an efficient and streamlined workflow to coloring all my stuff to make sure that it has a cohesive look throughout the whole project. And you'll never catch me using a teal and orange LUT. I don't think it looks good at all, but besides all that, let's get into DaVinci Resolve. All right, so we are inside of DaVinci Resolve, and you can see that we have three different types of clips here. We have the orange, green, and blue. The orange symbolizes the Canon C70, green is our Blackmagic BRAW in 6K, and then blue is our ProRes 422 from the Blackmagic Pocket 6K. And we have a mix of 4K, I think this is 4K as well, and then we have two 1080 clips. So, first things first, we have our log footage. I shoot in log for everything. I shoot at the base ISO for everything. So all the Canon footage is at 800 ISO, and all of the Blackmagic is at 400 ISO, except for maybe these two clips. But everything else is at the native base ISO. So beforehand, there was one way I used to convert my footage to Rec. 709, and I'll show you this process right now. You just add contrast, you can toy with the pivot, make a new node, Option S, and then we'll add saturation, maybe even more. So this is one way I used to convert my stuff to Rec. 709. I found a better way. I feel like doing it this way really hinders the full potential of my footage. And that made me develop my own LUTs. So I have a Canon CLOG2 LUT and a Blackmagic BRAW Gen 5 LUT. If you want to check those out, they're in the description below. But I used to only do this process that way, and you'll see why I don't do that anymore. So I have all my LUTs here, cool, normal, and warm. So we'll drop on the 33, and already it just pops. And compared to the first one, you can see that the skin tones just shine way more. The background just looks way nicer. We could try to mimic that here, but I don't like having to go into the primaries from the get-go and trying to dial it all in. I just like having something that just works from the start. And I think this Rec. 709 LUT does a good job. So we're gonna reset that. We'll start with this clip. So we'll make a bunch of nodes, label this one LUT. We'll do exposure, sat, curves, and then if we're feeling spicy, we'll do a look. So since we're gonna be using this as the base for everything, I'll just go through and just copy that over. And before we begin, here's a little bonus tip. Usually when I'm coloring all my footage, I'll add all of the clips into a group so that I can have some global effects that I don't need to go in and turn off on every clip. So it just makes editing go a little quicker. And if I want to make some adjustments that are global, like a look or grain or noise reduction, everything is adjusted at once and I don't have to redo it all. How you do that is you select all your clips. It depends on what kind of edit. You might have to go through and manually click them all. You right click, add to current group. And then now you have four little dots up here. You have group pre-clip, clip, post-clip, and then timeline. So in the group pre-clip, I have noise reduction. So I'm just gonna apply that. So now this noise reduction will affect everything, but usually I'll turn it off as I'm coloring because my computer is not strong. But these are my noise reduction settings. And I think just having noise reduction at the beginning just helps smoothen out the image. Sometimes there's noise that you don't want in it. and I like adding grain at the end. I feel like this just really helps smoothen out the look. So that's the group pre-clip. Now we have the group post-clip. So I'll go in and I have a power grade. And the way that you make these, you just right click, grab still, and it'll save it right there. So you can have it for later. So we'll add that back, do this one. And what I have here, so I have sharpness, I have grain, soften, curves, and glow. My grain is based off the Super 35 grain in DaVinci Resolve. You can see all my settings here. You can pause that if you want to check those out. Then I have soften, so I have a small Gaussian blur. And what I usually do is I'll just go through and turn it up. And then I'll just see how it looks as I bring it down. And I just want those edges to be softened up a bit. Then I add some curves, so I'll just make a simple S curve. Then I'll go through, and usually what I'll do is in Lume versus Sat, I'll just desat those highlights and desat the shadows. And then I'll add a glow. And you can see the glow just really brings out like a nice halation throughout the image. So what we're gonna do is I'll show you how I grade my footage, and then I'll show you what the group post clip looks like after the fact. So let's get back into the grade here. So let's add our LUT. Drop that in. So already the CLOG2 from the C70 is just looking gorgeous when you add on that LUT. So my process is really simple. What I'll do, I'll usually do 0.9 or 0.8 on the contrast. Take the offset down and bring it down just a bit so it's not like completely touching the bottom, but it's below 128. I'll add on some saturation, usually about 60 or 70. Let's actually add a little more contrast into this. I'm liking that. Curves, if we need to adjust any hues, just grab that. Usually I'll drag these little points off to the side. If we want to desat that, add some sat to the orange and red. Could do that kind of look. I don't really do this often, but sometimes you really need to adjust some colors. Like the blue might need to get taken down a little bit. See, I'm really liking that look right now. So we got the before, after, and then when we add on our group post clip, the group post clip is really where the magic comes in. It just really fills out the image. You can just see from turning that off and on, it just looks really dreamy and really, I hate this word, but it looks really dreamy and really cinematic. And on our Canon C-Log2 footage, we didn't use any filters. It's all built-in NDs, no filters on the front. And yeah, I really love how that looks, especially with the group post clip. So we'll do the same thing here. So this is a clip from my other video on how I expose my C-Log2 footage. So let's see if we can try to recover this. Let's add some contrast. Let's bring that down with our look. Let's change the white balance a bit. Saturation. Already this image is like kind of tough to work with. Let's bring that offset down. Getting a little crushed. It's not too bad. That's why it's so important to get your exposure right in camera. That's passable. But then this one, this is my all-time favorite clip I've ever shot on the C70. So, we've got our LUT on there. Let's just add some contrast to this. Bring that up, bring the offset down, add some saturation. And already this image I could just send out to a client and they would love that. But All we did was add some contrast, drop the pivot, drop the offset, add some sat, and then watch this when we add the group post clip. Looks so good. I'm actually gonna bring down the contrast just a bit. Then reset that pivot. Bring up the offset a bit. When you add in the post clip, you really need to kind of adjust as it goes on. But I'm really loving that. Let's turn this stuff off. You can see the grain just really adds so much to it. Loving that. Super stoked on this image. So we got before, CLOG2 LUT, adjustments, and then group post clip. Really loving this look. I don't know if you guys could tell already, but it's such a simple process. I like just keeping it natural, keeping it simple. So then we have 3 similar clips in a row. So let's do the exact same thing. So we'll go 0.9 on the contrast, drop that offset, add some sat, and then maybe like a tiny little S-curve there. Just crush those highlights a bit up the midtones. One thing I really learned is that you don't need to have your values touching either clipping point. Most Hollywood movies usually sit in this kind of range where the darkest part of the image isn't true black. Before I was really just trying to get it to hit the whole range, and it doesn't look that nice. And people won't know that it's not hitting true black or true white. And that's one major tip that I've had recently that really just upped my color grading as a whole. So with this one, we just copy that over. So we have CLOG2, LUT, and then the other adjustments. You can see that our highlights are kind of in the middle here. And these ones are up a little bit higher, so I'm just gonna drag the offset down just to kind of match a similar tone. Between the clips, we'll right click and apply grade. This one is a little darker, so we're just gonna up that a bit. And you can see that in our vector scope, everything's kind of cool in here, and then this shifts over to be a little warm. So we're just gonna bring down the temperature a tiny bit. I think a little bit more, -100 should be good. Really liking that look. And then you can see that our red here is a little oversaturated. So we'll just grab that, drag that down. We are good to go. And again, first clip. So we'll have CLOG2, Rec 709, our looks, and then we'll have our group post clip, which ties everything together. Now let's take a look at our second clip here. So we have CLOG2, Rec 709, our adjustments, and then the group post clip. Really loving the look out of this Canon C70. Sound like a broken record. Okay, so we have CLOG2, CLOG2 LUT, our adjustments, and then we have our group post clip. Just love, love, love how this looks. Sweet. Move on to the next one. We'll drop in our CLOG2 LUT. Again, this CLOG2 LUT just really gets it like 90% of the way there. I like having the latitude out of that if I want to have a more contrasty kind of look, or if I just want to keep it pretty low contrast. It's pretty neutral to where I can just be flexible with it. And yeah, this is exactly how I color grade all my stuff. Like keeping things simple. So with this one we have CLOG2, our LUT, our adjustments, and then our group post clip. I think after seeing the post clip here, I'm gonna bring this contrast down to 0.8. Cool. On to the next one. We'll turn off the group post clip again. It's like frying my computer. We'll drop our LUT in. So now we have CLOG2, our LUT. Exposure, I think for this one I'm gonna go to 0.8 and then bring all of this down. Just do 0.9 on this one. Bring that up. Saturation, we'll do 60. Let's check our group post clip, see if it ruins anything. No, I'm really liking that. So again, we have our CLOG2, our Rec 709 LUT, and then our adjustments, and then our group post clip. Then we should be able to copy this over to this next clip and have it look almost all the way. Yeah, I think we're good with this one. So with this clip we have CLOG2, Rec 709, our adjustments, group post clip. I just love the halation from the glow and the grain and how everything just comes together in this. Love that. Let's copy this one over. So yeah, we definitely need to adjust this offset. Let's drop it down to 0.8 and then just bring this offset down. Sometimes I'll mess with the primaries and really hone in the shadows, midtones, and highlights, but for the most part, this is exactly what I do. I want it to be a little bit warmer too, so I'm gonna add the temp to be like 50. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the bokeh on these RF lenses are so good. I love how swirly and like kind of creamy they are in the background. So, CLOG2, Rec 709. Then we have our adjustments. Really just tones it down, kind of crushes it together. And then our group post clip. The cherry on the top just really ties everything together. Then we should be able to copy that over to this clip. Add on our post clip. Drop this exposure a bit. I'd say we're good with this one. So for here, got CLOG2, Rec 709, our adjustments. Our adjustments do a ton of work there, and then our post clip really just fills out the image. So yeah, that was editing CLOG2 on the Canon C70. Now we have our Gen 5 from the Blackmagic Pocket 6K. So go down to my Gen 5 LUT, go to 33 point, drop that on, make sure this is Gen 5, go into our vector scope. Yeah, white balance looks pretty decent. Go into here, drop the offset. I think because I was using the Moment Cine Bloom, we're gonna add some contrast to this one. I see that we're clipping in the blues here, so I'm gonna add some highlight recovery. See if that does anything. Looks like it's not. For saturation, do 60. Do a tiny little S-curve just to bring these values down a little more. Midtones up. And then we'll drag those highlights down. And then for the look, since everything's kind of blue, we're just gonna desat the blue just a tiny bit. And then on the inverse, bring up the skin tones just a little bit. And then let's see what the group post clip does. Okay, so it really brings in the highlights there. I'm just gonna go back to this. Bring down this image. Bring down the sat. We're really liking that. I find that the Blackmagic footage just isn't as clean as the C70. Makes me a little boned, but that's how it goes. Kind of overexposed this clip too. So we could move that down. So yeah, we have our Blackmagic log, film, whatever you want to call it, our LUT, our adjustments, and then our post clip. Really liking that. And this one, let's see if we can copy this over. All right, that's like pretty contrasty. So let's drop the contrast, 0.9, drag the offset down a little bit. Really liking the look of this. Yeah, it's pretty easy. Once you develop a look that you can just drag and drop onto every clip, it makes editing so much faster, especially when you're editing from camera to camera and you have different cameras within. You can just drag from either one. So that's our log, Rec. 709. We're in Gen 5. And then we have our adjustments, just squeezing down the waveform, dropping it down a bit, and then our post clip. Really just fills out the image a ton. Adds a little bit more contrast too. All right, so we got another clip here. Let's just copy that over, why not? So it's looking a little green in this. Let's go into our white balance, bring it up to 20. Not too bad there. Let's add on the post clip, see how that turns out. It's a little too saturated for me, so we're just gonna turn off the sat and then drop the contrast down to 0.8. Bring this offset down. So again, we have our log, got Rec. 709, got our adjustments, and then we have our group post clip. The group post clip is where it's at. Adding the grain and the glow just makes it look really nice. Okay, got another one. Turn off the post clip. Bring all this over. Yeah, it's a little too dark there. Bring that saturation back. Curves are fine. Look is good. 400 ISO. I think maybe we bring up the contrast a little bit, just to bring some life into this image. Bring those shadows down, those midtones down. Really liking that. So good, right? Adding that last little bit to it. So again, super easy. There's our log. It's pretty flat. Rec. 709 LUT. Our adjustments. And then our group post clip. Sometimes when you add this on, you need to adjust your main area on the clip, but just little tweakings here and there. So we just copied this over. Let's go into contrast. It's looking a little too dark, so we'll go to 0.8 contrast. And then if you look at the waveform here, you see how it gets kind of crunched down as I bring it down. You'll see it in the shadows and the midtones there. But you see in the image too, if you look back and forth, it starts getting a little washed out, and then there's one spot right when it hits, like about there. That is what I'm looking for when I am color grading. Let's look at the post clip. Money. Looks so good. Okay, again, we got log, our Gen 5 Rec. 709 LUT, our adjustments, and then our group post clip. Really just gives like a nice cohesive feel throughout. And another tip, usually when I'm editing, when I go scene by scene, I'll try to keep the shadows and the highlights around the same values. So if you look at these three clips back here, I try to have it somewhere in between 0 and 128 throughout each of them. Even like these ones could go down a little bit more, but these two were shot at the same time, and I really like where those shadows are at. So now we have our Gen 4 Blackmagic footage. So we go into my Gen 4 LUT, drop that in. And I'm still working this LUT in. I haven't released it yet. So it's a little too saturated for me. So we're actually gonna drop the sat. And then we'll go down to our contrast, go to 0.8, drag the offset down. I don't think we need to add much into the curves here. Maybe just kind of stretching out this section a tiny bit. And then just trying to preserve those skin tones. So then we have our post clip. See, it's a little strong for this Blackmagic ProRes footage. It's just really contrasty. So let's just take off those curves. Let's go down to like 0.6. It's hard because the Gen 4 color science isn't really flat, so it's a little tricky to work with. Once Blackmagic gets their update to give Gen 5 naturally to their cameras, it's gonna be a joy to work with. I think maybe we even just drop the white balance a tiny bit. Let's drop these shadows. Bring up this offset. It's not too bad. See, I think we just take out the curves from this one. Yeah, if we take out the curves, it looks a lot better. So that's one thing to keep in mind too, especially if you have different codecs. Sometimes the group post clip could completely destroy your image. So, as my computer slowly dies. Okay, so we have our log, a Rec 709 LUT, and then we have our adjustments, and then we have the group post clip. It's not too bad. On to the next one. So in this one, we need to adjust the white balance a little bit. I was shooting at daylight the entire time. This is before I shot in BRAW, so now I have the flexibility of BRAW, but with this, we're gonna have to adjust. Let's go to 150 on that. Looks a little green, so we'll go to 15. Drop it down to 10. I think this just needs to stay a little contrasty. Gen 4 stuff isn't really my favorite to work with. We'll add all that. Not too bad. A little contrasty image. The blues back there are pretty strong. So we'll go into our curves here. Hue versus sat. Grab that. And then we'll just give it like a nice, slow, gradual desat. Right about there. Yeah, really like where that one's at. So we got our log, Rec 709, still dialing in that LUT. We have our look and adjusting for white balance. And then we have our group post clip. On to the next one. We'll just copy that over. We'll just reset that node. It's a little too contrasty for me for this one, so we'll go to 0.9. And this is a very dark image, so I want everything to kind of be crushed. And the sky really was blue, so I want to keep that as well. Got the saturation there. Let's see what our group post clip does. Ooh, makes it so moody. Love that. So there's our before, in our log, Rec 709, and then our adjustments, and then our group post clip. Really loving that. So then, since this is the same shot, we should be able to have this match pretty well. So just turn all that on, go back and forth, looking at the values. Looks pretty dang good. I don't want to adjust anything for this. So we got our log, Rec 709 LUT, desat the blue with all that, and then our group post clip. So that is that. We just went through a ton of different clips. You got to see my process, and really that's as simple as it gets. I'm really loving this natural look. And if you guys want to buy those 2 LUTs that I have in my store, they're linked below. If you have any questions on how I grade, just send me a DM or leave a comment below, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.